And so it was our thing to go to every single hometown buffet we could. If there was one in town, we would go. And so his funeral that I held was at the hometown buffet.
Oh, that's so awesome. Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Bad Times Good Stories podcast, the podcast where I, Joe Flanders, talk with a different guest every week about a bad, awkward, embarrassing, or just shitty time from their life that hopefully they've overcome or they're able to laugh about. And that is definitely the case with today's guest, comedian, actor, influencer, Aidan Park. I'd never met him before, which has become a common theme on this show now that I've talked with all the people I know. And there's really something electric about that, particularly on a show like this where people are opening up and being so vulnerable. Aidan talks about the fact that his boyfriend of several years who, you know, they had planned on being together forever, got cancer and died. And this happened like a year ago, so it's still fairly fresh. And so Aidan talks about the different ways that he's been dealing with it. He's a really positive person, which, all things considered, is pretty remarkable. So we talk about that. We do laugh about it. I think, as I said, Aidan's a comedian, so he's able to sort of find the funny in a topic that certainly isn't naturally hilarious by any means. But we laughed, and, you know, he's just a positive person. He talks about just, you know, a lot of self-love and positive thinking, and also just doing copious amounts of drugs and having sex with random men. As always, that he's kind of been coping with it. Anyway, it was a really great conversation, and I appreciate him talking so openly about it all with me, a complete stranger. So I hope you enjoy it. If you do, please give us that 5 stars on Apple Podcasts or whichever podcast program you use. You can also watch the show on YouTube, youtube.com/TheJoeFlanders, if you're interested in that. So that's all I've got for now. Without further ado, here's my conversation with Aidan Park.
Joe, everybody in my life that has caused me pain is named Joe.
Really?
Yeah. I just broke up with a Joe.
Oh, boy.
My boss is named Joe.
Wow. Well, this could be a new beginning with a Joe. Maybe? What do you think?
If you'll let me take more beauty gummies home.
If I have to buy your love and friendship with beauty gummies, it's a price I'm willing to pay.
You got a lot of followers, Joe.
I do. Yeah.
Woo woo.
Yeah.
Okay.
Apparently people like hearing about shitty times people have been through.
I'm shocked.
And I love talking about mine, so it's just a great time.
Isn't it wonderful?
I really do enjoy doing it, I gotta say.
It's like whenever somebody who doesn't have at least C-cup boobs and is willing to show them off has more than 3,000 followers, I'm impressed.
Yep. Well, yep. I mean, I'm rocking a C, but I haven't shown them off yet.
You're rocking. That's another painful time you can talk about.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You know, I'm working on it. I'm getting my 10,000 steps. I'm trying to get down to a B.
Do you have a Fitbit?
I've been using the tracker on my phone, which I hear is inconsistent, but I'm also cheap, and so I already have the phone.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna roll with it.
I think you should have I had a Fitbit.
Yeah.
And like, this is going on camera, right?
Yeah.
So I talk with my hands. And one time, it was like 3 o'clock and I was like on the phone. I was sitting there. I was like, blah, 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 blah. And then it's like, congratulations, 10,000 steps. And I was like, the hell?
So you were able to fool the Fitbit into running a marathon, essentially?
Right.
They're like, you just ran 10 miles.
Yeah, totally.
It's impressive.
No, and I didn't even need a paint shaker to put it on and cheat.
So, given the name of the show, I had a cynical view of life that life was just a series of bad times, good stories. Now my opinion has changed in that it's just really fun to talk about the bad times and how we've overcome them. But I gotta say, do you ever think about just like the number of things that have to go right in a day for it to just be an average day. And I say this because on my way out, I was on my way to work this morning, had my reusable Starbucks cup, doing my part, but the lid didn't work. So then I got coffee all over myself. And then I smelled of coffee in somebody's house I'd never been in before.
Yeah.
I was filming something for them. My job is not just to rob houses.
Yeah.
And it just made me think, like, the number of as somebody who bumps into walls and trips all the time, I've grown to have an appreciation for just an average day where nothing actually goes wrong.
Yeah, for sure.
Just a random thought I had.
It's also, you can be appreciative. Same thing can happen, and two people can look at it in two different ways, and it's the way you look at it.
Exactly. That's very wise of you, which is fitting, as not only are you a comedian, but you're a comedian who gives good advice.
Oh, yeah. My advice is always solid.
And I emphasized good just because when I saw that you did advice stuff without actually watching it first, I just assumed, it's another comedian who does like the bad advice column. You know what I mean? Like I've seen, it's just comedians who give bad advice, and that's the joke.
Like on purpose, bad advice?
Yeah.
No.
And yours is really genuine and really cool.
Yeah.
And, great.
Yeah.
So,
I'm
bravo.
confident. Yeah. I'm so confident about it.
But there's no easy way to segue into this. So from what you told me, I was telling you off mic that, when I reach out to guests, particularly ones I haven't met, and I'm trying to basically pry into what their worst thing they've experienced is, sometimes I'll get they'll shoot me back a few ideas that don't really feel like they have meat to them. And what you sent me, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. Which one? Which part?
Well, and to be honest, it was the story that you said you'd be down to tell, and then also the fact that after that you wrote ha 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 ha, and I thought this is amazing that that's you processing something and having come out the other side, and being able to laugh about it, which is the very goal of the show. Yeah. So you've already done it, so you won't need my help. But this is not. And so you said the event that we'll talk about kind of led you to doing the advice stuff?
Right.
Very cool.
Okay.
So, I guess we should just just a little backstory. Where were you born here? Where were you born?
So I was born in Korea.
Oh, wow.
And you didn't know any of this?
I didn't realize that part.
It was a shit show before even the main story.
Okay,
I'll just cover those.
Yeah. Give me the whole spiel.
This.
Yeah.
I moved here when I was 9.
Okay.
Single mom. Because my dad had a whole other family and was lying to both families and saying that he was going out of the country for business, but had 2 jobs and
really
and lied to both families. How far apart
were the families?
Busan was where the other family was.
Okay.
And Seoul was where my mom.
Okay. How far is that?
It's like Los Angeles to San Francisco.
Okay. Yeah. So a fair amount of,
a fair
it'd be crazy
distance.
if there was down the street or something.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Insane.
Okay.
But this was the 80s before Facebook.
Sure. Yeah. So you could. Wow.
Holy
shit.
So he did all that.
And
then we moved here.
So your mom found out and then was like, we're going to America?
No, she found out when I was like 4, raised me by herself for 5 years.
Wow.
We had a little video store.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we moved here, and my mom found a man we came here undocumented.
Okay.
And at that time, there were no protections really. Undocumented was just, that's it for you. You know what I mean? That was in the Bill Clinton era.
Okay, I was going to ask when this was. So the 90s? Yeah.
And not that Bill Clinton was against, immigration, but
sure.
I'm just saying, that was when this was, in 94.
Yeah.
My mom found a guy who said, if you come with me across the country and pay for my living expenses while I get through dental school, I'll marry you afterwards. She went for a year, wanted to get out, and I found this all out afterwards. She went for a year and wanted to get out, but was blackmailed into staying because he threatened to report her to the INS. And she had no resources, so she stayed with him. In the meantime, I was raised by my grandmother, who was a kitchen helper in government housing for seniors. And so I lived kind of like Anne Frank, right?
Oh, my God.
Yeah. And then I hit puberty and I'm gay. So there's that. And I was like, oh, shit, and they're all like Christian or whatever. And so all that shit went down. I did find a way to maneuver pretty well in high school. I was prom queen by the end.
Okay, so like you were embraced by like the high school community.
I was.
This
was
you don't always
2003.
hear that. Wow, that's really cool.
It
Okay,
was fun.
yeah, that's so. Wait, so did your grandmother move with you? Like
No,
when you
she
guys
was here
first
already.
moved? Oh, she was already here. Okay, so then you lived. Where did your mom meet this guy? Do you know?
She met him when she came here. He lived in San Francisco
Yeah.
for like a year or two before he went to the dental school in Boston.
In Boston, and then somehow just met her and propositioned this thing. This is crazy.
Well, they were dating for like a year.
Oh, they were okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
At first, they were a good guy. He was a good guy.
I see.
And then he turned into, and as soon as he graduated, dumped her.
Wow.
Like as soon as, like a week after he graduated, dumped her.
Now wait, did you say that the deal was that she was going to pay for his schooling and stuff?
She paid for his living. He was on scholarship because he was in the army.
Yeah. So he basically just scammed her.
He's such a dick.
Holy
He's
shit.
such a terrible man.
We don't have to. I just didn't want to quite gloss over it because this sounded fat. I mean, just ridiculous.
Oh yeah,
in the
I will
worst ways.
destroy him.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Good. Do you know where he? Do you
I know
where he
his
is?
Korean name and his American name. And I can do a search and destroy, but I'm not going to do that.
No, of course not. Wow.
I'd rather drop it.
Okay. Boy, that would be an interesting
So
documentary.
then,
Okay. So
I get out of high school. I score like 1340 on SATs.
Okay.
Okay. Great
Yeah.
score.
Yeah.
I get like a 3.8 on my school.
Mm-hmm.
I get into pretty much all the UCs.
Yeah.
Then can't go because I was undocumented. And if you're undocumented back then, there are no protections for you. So it was go to school for $300,000 a year or 200 something crazy and take out loans or I don't know if I even qualified for a loan, so I couldn't even do that.
Yeah.
And so for a year, and I was into theater, so like I did work exchange for the ballet and the Lions Ballet of San Francisco, and I did
wow.
work exchange for American Conservatory Theater.
Yeah.
And I did theater training in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Until I got my green card when I was like 19. And oh my God, in the meantime, there was this Republican city councilman who's super Catholic in San Francisco who was like up my ass, literally.
Really?
He was like voting against all the issues, but he was like, ooh, baby. Ooh, baby.
I like what I see, but I'm not going to give you any rights.
It was so funny.
Oh,
I think
wow.
he's still active.
Really?
Yeah, he does a lot of good as well. So we'll just leave it. But
Evens out. Yeah.
But I mean, the biggest dick ever. But I mean, really, in both ways. I
was going to ask, literally or
literally and figurative. He wasn't so much of a dick as I get it. Whatever, it doesn't matter.
Sure.
Anyway, so what was I talking about? Oh yeah, so I get out Miss Saigon, 9 productions of Miss Saigon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because you do theater.
Yeah. Yeah,
You're
just,
Asian
you're in
and
it.
you do Miss Saigon.
It's got to be Miss Saigon. Yeah.
So then that happens, and then so that's the background.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've never been in traditional education as far as like colleges.
Yeah.
But I've always had like people around me who wanted to support me in empowerment.
Yeah.
And so during this time, I was always involved in like empowerment programs. Like, have you heard of Landmark Forum?
No.
Okay, so I did Landmark Forum, which is like a self, improvement thing. The Liberty Experience, I went through that program. I went to, I have a certification in neuro-linguistic programming.
Now, what is that?
Neuro-linguistic programming is the concept that your subconscious languaging controls your world. And so there's a different, like here's an example of what they might do. Like they use hypnotic language patterns to kind of access the subconscious and use visual hypnosis, visual accessing.
Wow. Okay.
And there's this one particular, the concept is like this. It's like, I'm lazy versus I can be lazy sometimes, but I'm getting better. Like I am lazy is a self-identification. And if you identify as that, then even without you knowing it, you are taking that on as your being, and therefore you will defend it.
Right. It's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, I am this, so then you do things that a lazy person would do or not do, I guess.
Everything is like the world we create the world with our languaging.
Sure.
And so we kind of have to figure out a way to lead the world in the direction that you would like by shifting your languaging.
Yeah.
And so I've been trained in that. I love it so much.
That's really interesting.
And then my boyfriend dies.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's the story. So all of that was just like an introduction, and then
yeah, there's no clever segue into my boyfriend dies.
Yeah.
Okay. When did you meet him?
I met him at the beginning of 2013.
Okay. Was this in San Francisco?
No, this was in LA.
Or LA. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd been in comedy for about a year and a half at that point.
Okay.
I started at the beginning of 2012.
So how did you go from dancing to comedy?
I just got so bored. I was like, if I have to do another fucking production of Miss Saigon, I'm going to fucking kill someone. And I have to sell toothpaste. And God fucking damn, I was just so angry. I had so much anger. And so I started just doing stand-up.
Yeah.
I took a class. And it was a great way for me. And I wasn't that good. I was like...
Sure, yeah.
Like middle of the pack at best. Not great.
Sure, yeah.
And then, so about a year and a half, I meet this guy, and and I just hit it off right away.
Yeah.
And he like, we hit it off right away, and he inspires me to continue to do stand. I was gonna quit. I was gonna be like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was like, baby, like, I see you, and I think you got something.
Yeah, you just gotta stick
No,
with
you're
it.
not that funny yet, but I think you
But
got
it's there.
something.
Yeah.
And so he's like, keep going, baby, you know?
Yeah.
And so I do, and we start working together. Like, I had just left a relationship with kind of like a wealthy guy.
Okay.
Not wealthy, but he was well off. We had a beautiful house on a hill with the fucking view of the city.
Sure.
And I moved in with this guy, or I moved him into my apartment rather,
Yeah.
in the ghetto. And it was the best time. It was the best decision I ever made.
Yeah.
Because I moved in with him, and it was like, so I had a day job making bubbles at children's parties.
How does one make bubbles?
Oh, so there's a kiddie pool.
Yeah.
I put a little bucket in the middle. I have you step in, and then I put a hula hoop down, and they lift the hula hoop up. And so you're encased by bubbles.
I got it.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. So you're doing that, making
I
bubbles.
did that, and then I expanded that company to the Bay, and we took the territory, and we're in charge of the territory.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then I did political consulting work, which is organizing people to collect signatures for various causes.
Yeah.
And the stand-up comedy, and he starts he starts pitching me for bit. So we were like we worked together all the time for like 5 years.
And was he doing comedy too?
No.
What was his?
No.
What was
he worked
doing?
with me.
Oh, so he worked. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because at the time he was a very successful real estate man.
Yeah.
2008 crashed.
Right.
And then had a heart attack in 2010.
Oh, wow.
And by the time I met him, he was like trying to still figure out. He was like, "What do I do?"
Yeah.
And so we came together.
Sounds like at the right time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like he didn't come. People thought he's 20 years older. So people thought that he was my sugar daddy.
Sure.
So not the case.
Right.
So we came together, and we worked together to build a life of all these wonderful things, and like just had so much fun. Once a month, we would take time off and go away into Joshua Tree and get fucking high and just have sex. It was the best thing ever.
Outdoor sex can be fun.
Oh my God. Outdoor, indoor, up and down the road. I don't know. In the car, wherever. We've been there. Sorry, Joshua Tree. Just, just rub your hand on the floor. You might catch us. I don't know. Like what,
Did you do it on the tree?
On the Joshua Tree?
On the Joshua
yeah.
tree.
And then we spent 3 hours removing the thorns from the Joshua Tree. So he was the best.
Yeah.
And we had the best time. So we had built and this was actually thanks to neurolinguistic programming.
Really?
Because he came in with not a lot of necessarily money up front. Right?
Yeah.
And I was doing comedy, and in comedy, you're a comedian.
Yes.
So there's
a
a
lot of money
narrative. There's a narrative
Right.
that's like, I'm poor because I'm a comic.
Yes.
I'm single because I'm a comic.
Right.
I'm whatever undesirable result. I'm fucked up.
My life is in the dumpster because I'm a comic. Yeah.
And it's like, no, you're blaming the comedy world because that's what everybody's doing. But really, your life is a dumpster fire because it's a dumpster fire.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
and
no, that's
so
very true.
I started being like, nah, I'll tell you what my truth is going to be. I'm going to have a relationship and have money and be happy and be a comic.
Yes.
So fuck you all.
And so how long had you been together at that point?
I'd been together with him for 5 years.
5 years.
Yeah. And
Okay.
he moved in immediately. So we've been living together 5 years and touring. We would do the political consult. This is how our lives would work.
Yeah.
We would make our own schedule completely.
Yeah.
My Bay Area bubbles would be popping. So what we would do is, literally, so we would start in LA, head up Fresno, and do political organizing because it was statewide and we could work anywhere.
Right.
We would political organize in Fresno together. He would do the paperwork. I would do the managing of people. At night, I would do stand-up while he was doing paperwork. We would hit up San Francisco, train 3 new bubble employees while we were political organizing. And at night, I would do comedy and then drive back to it. Was like, so everything we were doing was like intertwined.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
definitely.
And like growing together, moving up together. And then, after touring like that, we would take a day off and go to Joshua Tree and fuck. And
Yeah.
then,
Lots of fucking. And then
was-
get back to it.
wonderful. It was the best.
Now, how did you get into political consulting?
I met my friend, Gianna.
Okay.
She's like my best friend. And she's a character.
Yeah.
She's just like, does not give a fuck.
Sure.
Like she's not a comic.
Yeah.
She just does not give a. She does not give a fuck more than anybody I've ever met, comics included.
Yeah.
Just does not care. She's like, hey, like, and I was like, what is this girl's deal? And it turns out she started as a petitioner,
Okay.
and then she started working as head petitioner, gathering people. And the official title for that, like as like a head petitioner, is political consultant.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And
Okay.
so they like gather people to go out and collect signatures. And that's the best thing I've ever fallen into.
Yeah.
But I introduced that to everybody. Everybody.
Mm.
And no one can follow through with it.
Now,
Because
why not? Is it a lot of work?
it's hard.
I would imagine it's hard to get signatures.
People say no.
Yeah.
They give you dirty looks. But I'm like, I don't give a fuck, bitch. I'm making $1,000 a day at that. I'm like, I don't care. Like, you can. I've been told to go back to China. I've been told that I'm going to hell. And I'm like, like, I'm gonna be at penny slots later with the money I earned today. So who's winning? The casino.
The real winner of all of this. Yeah. Wow. Okay. That's okay. So you guys had your hands in a lot of different areas.
Yeah,
That's really interesting.
and it worked for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Until it didn't, I guess.
Until it didn't.
So,
So he
yeah,
got diagnosed with cancer in March of 2019. It's shitty stories, right? So
Yeah.
I mean, and it was a time, you guys. So
Yeah.
what happened was, and I'm so grateful for all the training that I had for in the past, because without that, I would have been gone. This is the kind of shit that went down. I would get he was diagnosed in cancer March. He would be bounced around from hospital. He would be like, "Oh, we need a biopsy." Okay, biopsy. And then 2 weeks later, they're like, "Oh, we'll get you an appointment with a specialist, or with like a surgeon to get rid of to remove the whatever
The
biopsy.
tumor? Oh, yeah.
So that we can do a thorough biopsy." We would go to the person and they'd be like, "Oh, we need a specialist to approve this." 2 weeks later, specialist. And in the meantime, he's getting worse and worse and worse.
What kind of cancer was it?
We don't even know it had mutated so far.
Jesus. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was March.
Okay.
Just so like it was so maddening. Like I lived in the hospital. And I remember I mean, I was on the verge of suicide. I was thinking about killing myself.
Sure.
And the thing, like, it was just so hard. And
Yeah.
what was the hardest? The hardest day was April 5th is my birthday, and I actually spent that in the hospital with him. And they had drugged him up so much on Vicodin because he was in so much pain that he woke up and started talking nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
And so the nurse came in, and her name was Ethel.
Mm-hmm.
And then she was like, "Hi, Michael, what's my name?" And he goes, she was like, and he goes, Who am I? Right? And he goes, "You're Lucy's friend." And I was like, "Oh, Michael," because he's an old guy.
Lucy. Yeah, I love Lucy. Yeah.
And then she was like, "Who is he?" Points to me. And he says, "That's Aidan. And Aidan, I just want to tell you, I'm so sorry, honey. It's your birthday. And you're in the hospital with me. And next year, after I get better, you get 2 birthdays. I promise. I promise."
Yeah.
And it just moved me that like somebody who was that sick would like think about me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Definitely.
And so the next day I was like, well, fuck, I might just fucking. And then I was just like looking up like air tanks. And then I was like, okay, well, this one's $80 at $110. And you guys, how cheap am I that I'm thinking about committing suicide? And I'm like, but the interest rates. Yeah. But then I decided like, I'm not gonna. I mean, how bad do you want me to get? Like with the story, like
Yeah.
it's like my mom calls,
Yeah.
and she was like, "I know you're in pain, but you know what? Like, your grandmother passed away, and I stayed alive for you." That's what she said to me. So you got to stay alive. And I said to her, "Well, then why don't you kill yourself? Because I would be staying alive for you." After Michael goes, and I really don't have any other reason. So if you're staying alive for me and you don't want to be here, and I'm staying alive for you and I don't want to be here, then why don't we just both kill ourselves and we can call it the end? We don't need to be going ourselves through this. And that scared the shit out of her. And I saw the effect it on her, and I was like, okay, well, this is not a viable thing.
No.
I don't really want to. I don't think, you know.
Sure.
It's really. And then like I started thinking about like how like it has a ripple effect on like how disturbing it is. And
Right.
so I was like, okay, I'm going to be here even if Michael dies. And if I'm going to be here, I sure as hell am not going to be miserable, because fuck that. Like, I'm not going to live miserable day to day. I'm just fucking not going to do it. I refuse, because like that's miserable. I don't want to do that.
Right.
Like, and it can be a choice.
Yeah, definitely. And it's just exhausting. I mean,
Who wants to live like it?
Yeah.
And then more hell, like doing things like the nurses can't strap him down. He keeps ripping out his IVs.
Yeah.
And then can't hold him down for legal reasons. So I have to hold him down while he's writhing in pain because the doctors have prescribed a certain amount of Oxycontin and he can't get more. Right? Like shit like that. Conversations that I need to have with them, like, hey, they say that you have a 5% chance of survival. Do you want to continue on this, or do you want to just be kept comfortable? We can up your dosage, but that'll kill you faster. Like,
you had to have that conversation.
yeah, man. It was like,
What did he say?
he was so out of it, he couldn't even answer. He was
Yeah.
like, I think, and then he was like, I think I just want to go. And so I talked to him, and then later on he'd be like, that wasn't right. That isn't right. I need to fight this. That doesn't feel right, baby. And so we did that, and then plugging his lungs are filling with fluid, so tapping his lungs and removing the fluid, and there's like gallons of fluid from his lungs.
Yeah.
It was just the most. And he doesn't have family. I don't really have family.
Right.
So we're not surrounded by family. I mean, I have 2 friends, or I have like four or 5 friends who actually came by and really supported me through this process. And then the shit even got worse, because so it's one thing to have your partner there and they're sick. I was driving past USC the other day and I was like, oh, I remember the good old days when he was in the hospital alive.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
because he's not here anymore.
Right.
And so I'm like, okay, well, what do I do? And I was thinking about like, okay, man, like, what do you do? what am I going to do? And after that, I have a dog, and he promised he made me promise to take care of the dog. I sent you the photo of the dog.
Yeah.
I can't take care of the dog. I'm out 14 hours a day. I'm still running those businesses, except on my own now.
Right.
So I'm like out 14 hours. I can't.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have to give the dog away. So I drove to Colorado because I just felt like he wouldn't be happy with me giving the dog to anybody. So I wanted the dog to go to like a home. And there's this wonderful girl over there. I did the Colorado Pride Festival, and they have this girl who owns a ranch. So she fucking, we love her. Her name is Brooke, owns a ranch. How wonderful.
Yeah.
But I take the dog there, man, and the dog is petrified at first.
Yeah.
They're kennel training him. You know, he's going to be in a pack. Now he's happier than ever, more happy than I could have ever made him. But at first, watching him go, oh, daddy, what's fucking happening? And like, I have mental breakdown. And then coming in to my home and cleaning his shit, dumping everything, finding love notes that he wrote me as I'm cleaning. It's like, and then moving.
That was the dog that wrote you the love notes?
Yeah, that's right. The bitch. He's like, love, paw.
No, but yeah. Emptying out all this stuff. Yeah, I mean, that must be the hard. I mean,
it was so bad.
So many hardest parts, but you know, I mean.
Oh, and the funeral. So we loved being trashy. We enjoyed the trash. We loved going to the Motel 6 and staying there. We loved going to we loved it all. Like Marshalls, like just got a kick.
Sure.
I love just cheap living. It was a kick out of it.
Yeah.
And he and I had that in common. And so it was our thing to go to every single hometown buffet we could. If there was one in town, we would go. And so his funeral that I held was at the hometown buffet.
Oh, that's so awesome. That is so awesome.
I invited like 15 friends, and we ate cornbread and fried chicken, and just had such a great time at the hometown buffet. It was amazing. I mean,
and were you able to make it more of a celebration than
yeah, he's not.
It's so hard, but you know.
He'd be like, "Moving on." Like he's not. He had that old man voice. Come on, yeah. It was like he wouldn't want me to dwell. He hated dwellers, and he hated excuses. It was just like, "Come on, baby, come on." Yeah, like you know.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
All right.
Let's get on with it.
Yeah. He's very East Coast.
Sure. Yeah.
And yeah. So that happened.
Yeah.
And
how old were you when he passed away?
A year ago.
Oh, so this was a year ago?
Yeah, 33. I'm 34 now.
So, I mean, and I don't want to dwell on this or anything, but it's just in your head before this diagnosis, did you think that you sort of found your person, like just
I would have stayed with him forever.
Yeah,
for sure. And actually, I was concerned that I'd be like, baby, when I'm 70 and you're 90, if you die, then I'm left alone. What am I going to do? He'd be like, baby, I'm going to live as long as I can and be as healthy as long as I can for you. Well, we all know how that turned out. You know what I mean?
Right. And I guess that's what I'm getting at is that, like, yeah, with the age difference, you're already aware that, like, okay, that will most likely happen. But it's something that, like, in the moment, you're like, oh,
I thought it was
50 years from now or, you know, whatever. And so, like, it must have, I mean, how long did it take to, I mean, I imagine you're still kind of process, or, you know, how long did it take to kind of move past it?
I'm not past it.
I wouldn't think so.
Yeah.
I wouldn't think so.
I mean, I haven't been perfect in my moving forward. I'm like, so what's been happening is, like, after he died, I first tried to be like, okay, well, I'm gonna try to get more money or get more like or whatever, like chase something.
Right, it's a goal of something that can distract you, and
it doesn't work.
Right,
when you have that kind of trauma, it does not work.
Right.
You know what does work? I found 3 things that worked. One of them is actually turning into yourself, finding unconditional love for yourself, and actually feeling like you have some control over your thoughts. Like, okay, like I got in a car accident 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
And someone hit and run on my car. And I could sit and be angry about it.
Yeah.
But it was like a 89 Mazda. And so I could get angry about it. And I could still be angry. 2 weeks is not a reasonable amount of time for someone to be angry about a situation like that.
Yeah.
But you know what? Like, if you focus, you can be like, you know what? That person probably, my deductible is $1,000. That person probably needed $1,000 a little more, and it could have meant more for them. Like they might have family, or so it might have more. And at least I'm able to take care of myself and get this car taken care of. And Geico people were it was so convenient, and you know, it means I'm independent and solvent, and great, good for you, Aidan, for being like. So I could go that route, or I could go, fuck that guy, fuck the universe, fuck the world, blah blah blah. But either way, you have to manage it. So I'd rather look at it, if I have the choice, to look at it in a way that's going to fortify me, not make me just get caught up in anger. Because righteous anger feels good.
Yes.
But it's such a dangerous seductress, because you can get into that and you're like, yeah, I'm better than everybody because I deserve to be angry. And then you go and then you start just dealing with the world in that way.
Right.
And you get back what you reflect. And then you start feeling like a piece of shit.
Yeah, because when you're in that mindset, it's you against the world. So everything, you just view every slight against you is this grand fucking, the whole world is against me thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's one way of finding happiness. The other way is lots of alcohol and drugs and anonymous sex. Right. So I'm honest, man.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that. Yeah. I mean, you got to deal with it somehow, you know?
I fuck a lot of guys.
Sure.
I fucked a lot. I remember, man, I was driving down from Washington State after a political campaign that I took and I met a guy who gave me GHB, which I took voluntarily. You know what that is, right? That's the date rape drug.
Yeah.
And
You took it voluntarily?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, of course I did. Are you kidding me? I'm 6'2". Nobody, come on, like he couldn't lug me home if it fell asleep on him. Do you see what I'm saying? Unless they had a wheelbarrow, you know. So I fuck this guy, and the next day I'm so sick, and I'm in the middle of this rural Washington gas station, just puking, and this guy comes up to me and he goes, "Hey, can I pray for you?" And I was like, sure, thinking, Facebook, like, I'll pray for you, best wishes, those people.
Oh, yeah.
No. In Washington, they're mean business. He put his hand on my back and the other hand to this guy and said, "Lord, help this man." And there were like 12 white people who just ran to the site, started staring at me. And I look up and I see white people, cows, grass, and like Chevys and Fords. And I'm like, oh, this is purgatory? This is what happens? And I'm like, okay.
Were the prayers answered?
Well, luckily, I puked and an ambulance was called, and they gave me hydration.
Oh.
And they also gave me sugar.
Slightly more effective than the prayers, I would imagine.
I mean, you know what, though? I have to say, I appreciated the prayer.
Oh, of course. Well, yeah.
Man, at that time, hey, that was the best that he thought he could offer.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there was some ego involved, but what action doesn't have some ego involved? Yeah,
exactly. I mean, at this point, I think pretty much everything we do, there's a little bit of that.
Again,
and that's okay.
There's a way to look. Yeah. Again, people could easily be like, fuck that guy trying to impose his religion on you.
Right.
You can go that route. Or you can be like, hey, for that time, he wanted to exhibit some care, and this was the best that he knew how to do at the time, and that's what he felt he had best to offer. So he went that route. I'll look at it that way just
Yeah.
because it's easier for my life.
Well, sure, exactly. Just
You know?
think that the guy may, and you made me laugh when the 12 white people show up, because that almost, we were talking about musicals earlier. I was expecting them to break out into a song and dance. And
Yeah, I mean,
they just show
Old
up.
Man River, like. Man, not a black one in sight. Seriously. I mean, it was so bad. Okay, anyway. So, yeah, I haven't been perfect about it.
Well, I don't know how one would be perfect in that situation.
Well,
You
but
know?
I like to talk about it openly.
No, and I
because
think that's great. Sorry, I cut you off.
No. It's so this is so it was around that time where I was like, okay, well, I have the neuro-linguistic program. I did a lot of NLP during this time. I also got into a relationship I shouldn't have with this character who just got divorced from his wife and he's bisexual and just doesn't know what he wants. So
Oh, God.
it's just whatever. I mean, he's a very, very nice man. He baked brownies for me. So, I don't know, whatever. So anyway.
Were they good
on
brownies?
camera. There was a look there. There was like,
Were the brownies good?
those were great brownies.
Nice.
He's a nice guy. I wish him the best. Not for me, ultimately.
Well, it seems like, yeah, I mean, we don't have to, but it seems like with all the shit you're dealing with, the last thing you need is somebody who isn't sure what they want in their life. They just got divorced. Like,
Yeah.
and I feel like and I've talked with enough people who, when they're in a situation, not identical to yours, but when you're just a lot of pain and you somehow you find yourself latching on to just situations that are not going to end well.
Well, this is what okay, I live in LA, so as soon as my boyfriend died, I got like 100 phone calls, like, because I made the announcement, whatever. And of course, 2 of them were like, I'm gonna buy you a psychic session. And I'm like, sure.
Yeah, why not?
Oh, fuck it. And so I talked to the medium,
Uh-huh.
and she was like, oh, and actually one of them I really felt close to. And so I still talk to her sometimes.
Sure.
And she was like, and this I believe, actually. She was like, because the way we met was like weird. It was like weirdly serendipitous. We don't need to get into it, but it was like we were going to meet online, but then like it's just, a lot of things had to line up in order for that to all work out.
Yeah.
And he was who I needed at the time. And she was like, at the time of Michael's departure, you were more vulnerable than you needed, and you had always been in relationships, because I was in an 8-year before Michael's 5-year.
Oh, okay.
And you were always been in relationships. First time being single, and with a death, you were too vulnerable. So the universe wanted you to have somebody there, but also you were very wobbly and very unstable. So we had to match you with somebody who was also at that vibration, so you can get stable for that time, so you can move forward. However, like, because if you match to like a really solid guy when you're in that state, it doesn't work anyway.
No.
So that's why you match with people who are
That's
in a
interesting.
similar.
Yeah, I can see that. That makes sense.
So, but then.
So it was around this time. When did the advice start?
Around this time,
Okay.
I was driving to Seattle because I just had to take a political consulting job. And on my way up there, I was thinking about these doctors and nurses, and they do really important work.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm doing stand-up comedy. What am I really providing? And then I was like, like I could I want to provide some kind of positive or some kind of, I want to contribute something.
Yeah.
So then when I get back into town, I start thinking, okay, well, how can I be more positive? And also, like, the more you kind of are putting that out, the more you get back of that same energy, the more you end up giving out, and then your life becomes,
Yeah.
I think social media is a great thing, because if you look at it and anything in any way, like, people could be like, oh, like, social media is so annoying and it becomes about self-involvement. Actually, you know what? Like, me going on Instagram story actually makes me feel like, hey, I actually do want to be my best self as much as possible, so that I can be honest in these stories, so that I can feel good about my life. And so it kind of guides you, and then you get encouragement. If you put out a certain kind of, if you put out hate speech, you'll get angry hate speech back.
Oh yeah.
But if you put out things like, hey guys, like, here are some ways to feel positive and take care of you, you'll get, hey, Aidan, I hope you're well. Take care of yourself back. I don't hardly ever get negative messages, ever. Nobody ever. And I have like, what, 20-something thousand followers? Like,
Yeah.
my followers do not hate on each other. They don't fight. It's like you attract exactly what you put out. And it's a great way to reinforce that kind of level of energy for, it's been a great tool for me.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And I can see why, because you're right. Yeah, when you put that energy out there, it'll come back to you.
Yeah.
And I think the people that, and I've been guilty of it, just assuming, just like Twitter is just like a, ugh, like that's your reaction to it. But it's just, if all you're doing is mindless shouting at each other and you're not listening, of course it's going to be a terrible, awful thing. But if you, I'm just reiterating what you said, but
No,
it's a great
true.
thing. I mean, it can be whatever you want it to be.
Anything can be whatever you want it to be.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
know, anything. Like, you can complain about anything.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So.
And I do.
You know.
But I try to keep it in check, you know.
But, you know, I mean, you know, but not to say that I've been perfect. I mean, the drinking and the,
Sure.
you know, connecting with that guy, you know, on a lot of substances and it's just not, it wasn't the best.
Right.
But also fortifying my, it was a double kind of, you know what I mean? And so it's been an interesting, so I decided to do more of that as a way of self-help, but then I started creating a brand of content around that, like the What to Do show, because like I do have the training and the backup to kind of like, and that along with what I found as far as unconditional focus of thought, unconditional love, and the focus of thought in that direction, and kind of leaning in a way that's like, you can choose, like, I mean, I could have easily gone to, if you get hit by a car, you can, people do go to, I'm such a piece of shit, this happens to me all the time, I'm a worthless piece of shit. And then you can go down the, I'm worthless, or you can go down the, I can take care of this, I'm proud of myself. Or even if you have to ask your parents for help, you could go with, I'm such a fucking loser, I have to ask my parents for help. Or, oh, it's so wonderful, how lucky am I to have parents that really believe in me, that do this.
Right.
Like, there's two ways of looking at any situation. And so constantly making the choice to look at one direction to fortify your own self-worth is the way to happiness. That is it. And going with your instincts and not turning your back for what society expects. So really aligning with yourself and making sure that you are fortified in your strength and your worthiness. That's the key to happiness. That's it. That's the only thing that works. That and alcohol and a lot of sex. But I don't recommend it.
Along those lines, have you found that you've given advice to someone on one of your videos that you think, oh, I need to take this advice too?
Oh, yeah, of course, all the time.
I would imagine.
All the time. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I
of
would think.
course.
Are there times where you're like, I'm not doing the thing I'm suggesting they do?
Of course.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's only natural, you
Yeah.
know?
I say, like, don't struggle. But, like, it's easy to... It's so easy to do this as people who live in this high-tech world. We're smart people right now. We're pretty smart, adept at reasoning. The catch-22 of being smart is that you can reason yourself into anything,
Right.
and make exceptions to the rule. So my advice to people is, hey, if your instincts tell you something, that's God talking to you. So don't turn your back on your instincts and try to make something, will something to work. I struggled for like 5 months with this Joe character. Back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And goddamn Joe, I'm going to punch you in the fucking face. I see him right now. He's also white. Yeah. You know, the bubble boss is also named Joe.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I have a lot of... But I love that guy. That guy's great. He's French. He's
nice.
like, oh, Aidan. You got to make bubbles. You know, got a bubble show.
Bubble Joe.
I love him. He's the best boss ever.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I better cut that up and send it to him. I'm not just kissing his ass. He really is the greatest. Like, like I said to him, hey man, you want to expand to the Bay Area when I was in 2013, and he was like, if you want to take charge, Aidan, you can do it, and then we'll work out it. And he's been so supportive and just the best guy.
Oh, that's
Bubble
good.
Mania. I recommend it to everybody. It's a great show. What are they talking about? Joe.
Oh,
yeah, that show was
sorry.
also not that bad, but it was just. So I mean, it's easy to be like, yeah, but I am like. There is something to be said for getting messy, though, because again, I did something with Joe, right? Where I'm like, I'm not listening to my own advice. I'm such a piece of shit. I could go there,
right?
Or I could go, hey, Aidan, you did the best that you could at the time, and I'm proud of you for really going out into the field and playing the game of life wholeheartedly and not holding yourself back. And so good on you. I'm proud of you for learning this through your own experiences. And hey, you've learned a lot and there'll be better to come. Like, I can go one direction. I'm going to choose to go the one direction.
Right.
Because it's happened. You have a choice. And that's how you find happiness and worthiness.
Well, so maybe you just answered it, but yeah, so where are you at now with all of this? With the dealing with it, the drinking and the fucking and the,
I like dick.
Dick is good. Yes.
No. And then, I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing good.
Yeah.
I mean, occasionally I'll like want to, but like, it's about, I feel like this. I do believe in the whole, because I'm from LA after all, I do believe in the whole manifesting thing in terms of whatever you put out, you'll get back. So if I put out, hey, I'm going to get drunk tonight and fuck this random dude, and it takes me 2 days to recover, I lose 3 days. And in those 3 days, my mind doesn't have enough sufficient energy to kind of make, you have focus of thought, which is only available to you when you're with it. If you're not with it, then you don't have focus of thought. You just kind of go where the wind blows. Okay. So if you're in a weakened state and you get into a car accident, you don't necessarily have the energy or the strength or the forethought to be like, okay, I have a choice here in the way I'm going to think. Great, I'm going to go this way. If you're chemically already leaning low energy and something bad happens, much easier to go down the rabbit hole of my life sucks, I suck. Then it takes you how many days to get out of that cycle?
Right.
Because there's momentum also. So you can go have a bunch of momentum in that way. I know that sounds very strange.
No, not at all.
I think it's just the way world works.
Definitely.
So the more you can choose things that is gonna fortify your strength, the universe will meet you halfway. Like, for example, I went to, church. Look, church, like, I go to, what is it called? The Center for Spiritual Living, right?
Okay.
And that's like a non-denominational, whatever it is, spirituality or whatever, like just gets you closer to yourself, I think. And it doesn't matter. Even if you're Baptist. Look, my grandmother was a Baptist woman. She had a heart of gold. So even though I personally had struggles with the Baptist point of view around the gay thing, it brought her a lot of comfort and safety. And some people need something to hold on to, anything outside of themselves that may necessarily not agree, but it agree with the way I want to live. But I don't want to condemn that whole thing. It brought her a lot of strength,
Right.
She's a single 83-year-old woman living by herself who found spirituality by listening to these Baptist tapes at 6 o'clock in the morning. It would drive me crazy. Like every morning, 6 o'clock to 10 o'clock, she would listen to a sermon on CD, and then she would get on the phone from 10 to 12 and talk to her friend about God. And then she would do another meeting from 1 to 3, and then she would get on a bus to Pachanga Casino and then blow so much money. And then she would come home and repeat. But it made her life so wonderful. She was so happy.
That's all that matters.
Yeah, and when my mom moved in for, when she was sick, like when this time I was long gone, my mom moved in with her and they would do this together. And grandma, I love my grandma. I mean, she really is such a wonderful, generous woman, you know, and she deserved this. And near the end of her life, she was like, how can somebody be so happy? How can I be so happy? What did I do to get such a happy life? You know, where she would go to church and then go and gamble.
Right.
And good for her.
Yeah.
She didn't lose a lot of money. She played with like $40 a day and would play penny slots. And what did I do to be so happy? What did I do to deserve this amount of happiness? And like, I'm so happy for her, because what did she have really? She had no money. She didn't have a man. She had my mom and her faith and $40 a day.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, wow, cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I think spirituality, making the choice whenever you can to fortify your strength, whenever you lean in that direction, I believe that the universe will meet you the other halfway. Because that's been my experience. Every time I've been like, nope, not going to do that. I'm going to focus on this. Like some good career thing happens, or somebody appears that was gone that makes me feel like I'm happy to be alive in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
I know that sounds so weird, but
no, it doesn't.
Okay.
it really doesn't.
Okay. That's my point of view on everything.
Yeah, it's a very good, that's a healthy point of view to have. You know,
it's the only point of view that will allow for my survival.
Yes.
At this point.
Right. Yeah.
Because nothing works.
Right.
Nothing. And grandma went through a similar experience. My grandfather beat her all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Just beat her. She was an abused wife, and for a year, up into her 50s, very wealthy. My mom grew up so wealthy. She was a movie star in Korea.
Your mom?
In the 70s, but she developed like a disease that made her gain a bunch of weight, and so she stopped working. And my grandmother, my grandfather, was in some kind of Korean mafia and gambled away. This was all before I was born. Gambled away or lost all his money. He was a badass man. When he was like young, he was 9 years old and his family beat him, so he didn't like it. So he walked from South Korea around the top of North Korea to China, mined for gold with a pack of thieves, and then walked back by the time he was 11.
Holy shit.
Yeah, walked. And I'm like, she didn't like my Instagram post. You know what I mean? Like, so, I mean, he had his own reasons. And I also like to look at him like, hey, man, like, yeah, he beat my grandma, but, and not that I'm condoning beating, but like, you know, I have to take the stance that everybody does the best that they can.
Mm.
Because if I can't do that for everybody, then I can't do that for myself, really. Because who's our own harshest critic? Like, I hold myself harsher than I probably would judge anybody else, right?
Oh, you and me both. Yeah.
So if I take that stance for everybody else, then it allows an opening for me to take that stance with me.
Mm-hmm.
So even if I fuck up, even if I go hook up with the guy maybe I shouldn't have, even if I do say something that I didn't mean, like, I need to be able to have the space to be like, hey, Aidan, that's not who you are, really. And everybody makes mistakes. Hey, that's all right. Be
Move
the
on.
parent, right?
Yeah.
So my grandmother lost her home.
Mm-hmm.
Like they lived in like this 3-floor home, very fancy.
Yeah.
And it got washed away. And grandmother said like everything got washed, like everything happened at once, like rain, flood, home, loss of money. And she said, I remember sitting on top of my roof going, can somebody help me? Can somebody do something for me? Because whatever I'm doing. And that's when she found, because she was not Christian
Religious,
before then. Yeah. And then she, at some point, you're like, oh, nothing works.
Yeah.
Everybody hits that point.
Right. Yeah. And like you say, yeah, you just need to latch onto something, you know? And if it works for you, then.
Yeah. So.
Well, thank you. I did have
Sorry, it wasn't that funny. I don't think it was funny.
I never worry about that.
Ah,
I
okay.
really
I don't think
no.
it's
You were
funny.
great. No, I mean, yeah. It'd be weird if this was just like
Ha.
hitting a joke every 30 seconds.
But I will say, my favorite joke that I say about Michael is like, you guys, my boyfriend passed away. It's like I literally got ghosted.
That's good.
And then some, social justice warrior says, that's not funny. And I'm like, screw you, that's not funny, because my boyfriend would have thought that was funny.
And it
'Cause he
happened
helped
to me, not you,
Yeah.
social media warrior.
It's just because you have an
Social
NPR
justice.
tote bag, asshole. Like,
Well, I was going to ask if you talk about Michael in your set.
oh yeah, totally.
How long after he passed did it end up in your...
Immediately.
Yeah. Just
'Cause-
as a coping, right? I mean,
Well,
and
I actually
you dealt with it.
felt very strongly.
Mm.
Because I was so in love with him and we did everything together that he made up like 20 minutes from my set. And while he was dying, I actually was crying. And I said to him, Michael, you can't die on me, because I wasn't looking for any reason. I was like, Michael, you can't die on me because half my material's about you. So I'm going to go from headliner to feature. What am I going to do?
But here you are. Still
I was like,
headline.
fuck you. Dead or alive, I'm talking about you, asshole. And so...
Well, just curious. So when he was in the hospital, since he didn't have any family and you guys weren't married, right? I mean, was that a real... How did you navigate, like... Was there stuff where only family can sign this or any of that kind of shit? Like
Not
you
in
were able
California.
to. Okay,
Yeah.
that's good.
And it was great because they wanted to like dick him around. Like they were like, your insurance doesn't cover,
Yeah.
And we were like, bill him. At some point, they were like, we want to move you to Riverside Hospital from USC. And I was like, you're not moving him from here to Riverside. And they were like, what do you want to? They were like, but he's not authorized. And I was like, bill him. Fucking bitch. That woman, I remember that woman. She was like fucking dying. And I was like, you can't move him. And he was like, do not talk to me that way. Go fuck yourself. If I ever see her, I'll fucking slap her. No, I won't.
No, you won't.
Because everybody is doing their best.
Exactly.
She must be fucking miserable.
Well, thank you so much for
Yeah,
coming on to
thank
talk
you.
about all this.
It was fun.
Yeah, I
It's
really...
therapy. Woo-woo.
Yeah, right? Woo! Where can people watch your advice videos and everything else you got going on?
Okay, so my Instagram at Aidan Park Show.
Mm-hmm.
Daily advice. I was yelled at by a social media person. I have to do daily advice every day. And Aidan Park Show on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook.
Well, thanks again for coming on, and I'm glad that you're doing okay. Sounds like you're doing great. As well.
Yeah, I think I'm doing well.
I would say so.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
there you go. I work out. What else can you ask for?
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
That was the episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I know that I did. I really, again, there's a lot of laughter on an episode that certainly is covering some dark subjects, but I think the way that Aidan is handling himself, I obviously wish him nothing but the best. As we talked about, he gives daily advice on his Instagram page, Aidan Park Show. So I highly suggest you check that out. It's pretty cool that he's doing that and finding a positive in the situation that he has found himself in. So check that out. 5 stars on Apple Podcasts or whatever you listen to. And that's it. So until next Wednesday, keep laughing.